My ex-girlfriend, my Chinese ex-girlfriend, throws bricks, rocks, and stones through my window, shattering 2 of them. The police make me kick 6 friends out of my house because we're technically breaking Corona law. I'll explain all of this in a bit. Stay tuned, this is going to be a crazy one. Let's get to it. Before we get to everything, please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. Just click down below. That's all it takes. Feel free to like this video, comment below, let me know how everything's going. I know as far as the coronavirus goes, things are getting crazier in America and other parts of the world now, so I want to know how it's affecting you. Before we get to some of the crazier stuff, let me kind of tell you how things have been in the last 3 weeks or so. I'm sorry I haven't done a video. Things were really slow the first couple of weeks and then the month. And so I didn't want to just put out a video to put out a video. I wanted to actually have something to talk to you guys about. But I haven't worked officially at the school that I teach since January 22nd. We were supposed to have a week holiday. It turned into a month. Now it's a month and a week and some days. And we are launching an online platform for our students next week. But our classes are broken down by age. I teach 8 classes, and 4 of those classes are considered too young to do the online teaching thing. And so even once we do start teaching online, I'm only going to teach half my classes at most, and we still have no idea exactly when we're going to go back to work. As far as what I've been doing, people are going out more. In Jinzhou, there have only been 12 confirmed cases of corona, and all 12 of those cases have been cleared. And I believe in proximity to those people, 120 people were thought to be at risk. Those people have been medically cleared too, which is great. But as far as everyone going back to work, teaching, returning to normalcy, the federal government is actually in charge of deciding when we can go back to work. So that essentially means like places like Wuhan, the places that are bigger cities, more in danger, more of a threat level, those places need to be cleared in order for everyone to return to how life was before this all started. 2 nights ago, I went out with some friends. It was cool. One of our friends opened up their restaurant for us. It's in a basement. And so we were able to sneak on in there, hang out for a little bit. And then when I got home, I couldn't get my key in the keyhole. I think you call it a keyhole. But I stepped back, was like, is this my door? And my door has all these Chinese stickers all over it. For some reason, previous tenant or whoever put them there. And I could hear my dog on the other side of the door whining. And so I knew it was my apartment and my key wasn't bent and I just could not get into the house. Luckily, even though it was like midnight to 2 a.m., I'm not exactly sure, I was able to get a hold of my boss. He let me crash at his place that night. There were no taxis that late, so I had to walk at least 30 minutes to his apartment. But I was very appreciative that I had a bed to sleep on because there was no way I was going to get a hold of a locksmith at that point. But the company that I work for, one of the girls helped me. The next morning, she sent over a locksmith. He got me in within 5 minutes. Apparently the keyhole was messed up. And so I wasn't crazy. I sat there the night before for like 20 minutes just like, this can't be happening. I just want to go to bed. I have to be able to get into my apartment. This is crazy. But the keyhole was broken for whatever reason. But I was able to get back into my apartment. Luckily, they made me a new key. And I also got a new lighting setup. Here's what my old lighting setup looked like. It's a lamp that came with the apartment that they gave me. And here's my new lighting setup. Here's me testing it out.
There you go.
I think it looks pretty good.
Hi, Mom. Hi.
Okay, can you turn it off? I want to see what it looked like before. Oh, it's a lot better.
Just please put that in your video.
It looks good, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, look, you can make it dimmer.
That is great.
That is awesome. Oh, that is cute.
I'm buying this. All right. Yes. No. Just got my lighting set up. Okay, Ma?
Okay.
Did you just flick me on? Oh, okay. They finally opened up certain places. This is a tech depot. No one else says depot. It's like the tech market, but I always call it a depot. It's Americans for you. But it was really cheap. Tripod, phone holster, ring light for less than $50. It was 340 yuan, which is close to $50, between $40 and $50. So I'm pretty happy with it. And yesterday, walking back to my apartment, it snowed so much. It snowed here probably like 5 times since winter started. Well, 5 times since I got here. I don't know why it would snow in the summer, but it snowed about 5 times, but this was the most it had ever snowed at once. It was really beautiful outside, but I didn't want to stay outside. I wanted them to unlock my apartment and let me in. But today I went out and it was pretty much not all melted, but it was like 3 to 5 inches and it just completely disappeared. And as far as Jinzhou in general, a lot of things are returning to normal, but a lot of things aren't. They started the usual transportation systems last Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, and buses are running. It's a lot easier. It's still hard because like late at night, but it's a lot easier than it was a month ago to get a cab. So that's nice because I cab everywhere that I go. And a lot of the shops are open, but you're not supposed to be in a group of any more than 3 people at one time. That will come into play when I tell you about the police coming. So even at like McDonald's, they have most of the chairs propped up and you have to be separated from other people in order to eat in public right now. And then a lot of places aren't allowed to open at all. But the mall that's really close to my house, most of those stores are open. There's usually a giant stage that always has something going on. Sometimes they'll have a basketball tournament inside the mall. Kids will put on shows. There was a wedding expo one time, but that is completely cleared out still. And when you go anywhere in public, you give them your wrist and they take your temperature. They always try to get me to put my information into this app, and I always just say, Ting Pudong, which means I don't understand. I don't understand. And so they just zap my wrist and they're like, go ahead. So luckily no one's given me too much of a hassle about that. People are definitely out more. I mean, there are even kids. It's weird. You see kids in masks playing, but they're outside playing basketball. And then when I shot that last clip, I realized I'm like videotaping other people's kids. And so I turned it off. I was like, if I really think about it, that's kind of weird. But I just wanted to show that things are kind of returning to normal. So what happened last week? What about my ex-girlfriend breaking my window? What about the cops coming? What about everyone getting threatened with going to jail for the night if they didn't leave the apartment immediately? So I'm gonna keep this as concise as I can. So I dated a Chinese girl here for 6 months. She doesn't really speak any English. She speaks about as much English as I do Chinese. Probably like 100 words and phrases. But I will tell you the whole story about her in another video. That deserves, it could be like a 2 to 5 part series. There's so much to talk about as far as that situation goes. But essentially I broke up with her and she cannot seem to accept that. And so she came by, I'm laughing, but this was really scary. She came by my apartment last Monday and tried to push her way into the apartment, and I wouldn't let her in. And so she began throwing bricks at my door. Maybe that like messed up my keyhole. I didn't think about that, but maybe she hit my keyhole with a brick. But it worked. The keyhole worked for like a week after that, so I don't know. It's just weird that the keyhole broke. But I have a big kitchen window here, and she started throwing rocks and stones and bricks through the window because I wouldn't let her into my apartment, and she wound up obliterating these 2 windows. And it was impressive in a way because I have like bars on my window that are like 3 to 5 inches apart, and she got several shots through those bars, smashed 2 of my gigantic kitchen windows, and eventually she left. It was one of the scariest noises I've ever heard. And luckily I had my curtain down, so even if glass would have sprayed inside, it hit against the curtain, but there was glass all over my counter. And then I wondered if I should notify my employer that this happened, but I didn't want them to be dragged into this personal situation. It's not really not that it's not their business, but everyone's kind of going crazy right now. Everyone has a lot to deal with all these changes, with Corona and everything. And so I didn't really feel that I needed to drag them into that. We were going to play poker that night, very low key, me and 6 other friends, 7 people total. And so after my first couple of friends arrived, I get a call from one of the girls at school, and she asked if someone broke my window. And so I was like, yeah. And so apparently a neighbor called because it was so loud and it just kept going. And so I feel bad that it bothered my neighbors, but I didn't know what else to do. I tried to tell this girl in so many ways, like, I want you to be happy, but I don't want to be with you. Please leave me alone. And so apparently one of the neighbors called the landlord. The landlord had the contact of one of the girls from my school. And this girl's bilingual, obviously, so she was able to explain to me that there had been a complaint, that someone had heard this, someone was worried. Maybe not about me. I'd like to think they were worried about me, but maybe they're just like, our apartment building is getting attacked in general. And from the outside, there was shattered glass everywhere. So if one of the neighbors had wanted to go out and look and see what might have happened, it was obvious. This kitchen window is facing all of the other apartments' windows, so it was obviously my apartment. So she told me that the police wanted to come take pictures. And I told her, I'm having people over, is that gonna be okay? And I, at that time, didn't know about the rule about it being 3 or less people in any given place, much less at your own home. And so I've always been worried about having to interact with the police here. Just a fear of I mean, Jinzhou's a small city, so it's not like they're gonna send a cop over that is bilingual to try to help me understand. I haven't dealt with any cops in the 9 months plus that I've been here, but I've just always had this fear of not having my passport on me or something happening and not being able to explain myself, and then just suddenly being in some sort of trouble, I guess. Hard to explain. I told her that I was going to be having 6 other people here. They'd probably be here by the time the cops got here. And she told me, don't worry about it. It's fine. They just want to come take pictures. And so I said, yeah, I mean, they have to do what they have to do. Everyone gets here. We hadn't even started playing poker yet. We were here for about 2 to 3 hours before things went down. The cops eventually came. In this video, you can see that I'm trying to get some kind of shot of the cops being in my house. I don't know what the law here is as far as like videotaping cops, even though it's in my own house. So I was holding up the curtain in the kitchen so that he could take pictures of the broken window when you see this shot from above. So I'm sorry it's so shaky. Oh, okay. But they took pictures from the inside and the outside, and they were really polite and left in literally 3 to 5 minutes. And so we continued on with the night, laughing, talking, having a good, but like I said, low-key time. We didn't even have loud music playing or anything like that. And then I think it was about 30 minutes to an hour after the cops left the first time that we started getting frantic calls, almost all of us on all of our phones, text and calls. And the owner of the company that I work for was trying to call me and tell me, you need to get everyone to leave your house in the next 30 minutes or the cops are going to take everyone to jail for the night. I should have just been like, get out. But I also was trying to understand from my boss, what do you mean? We weren't even doing anything. We're not being loud. And that is the point that I found out that you can't be in groups of more than 3. So essentially the cops had come to take pictures of the window because my ex-girlfriend broke it. And then when they came, they had seen that there were more than 3 people here. And so I was pretty upset about that. I had been told by the girl that called me initially to tell me that the cops were coming, that it wasn't a big deal to have people over. And then we just couldn't decide exactly how to handle the situation. But at the same time, my boss seemed very serious. And so none of us wanted to deal with that, deal with going to jail in China for the night, especially with all the corona stuff going on. I don't know who else is in that prison. We're not supposed to be in groups of bigger than 3, but I don't imagine that the jails here are very nice looking, or that you have a big room to yourself or something like that. And so after trying to figure out exactly what the problem was, we did decide to disband. One of my friends had $200 worth of KFC coming our way, and she was very disappointed that she didn't get her KFC because she'd been waiting for like an hour. But they refunded her. The KFC refunded her. Props to KFC. But please build a Popeyes in Jinzhou, China. If you're watching a lady that's in the Popeyes commercials, please, Jack wants you here. And so as my friends were leaving, it was like 25 minutes after we've been told you have 30 minutes. And as they're leaving, we see the cops there. The cops actually did show back up to make sure everyone was leaving. But we didn't interact with them at all. I walked everyone out to the gate. We were completely fine. And then that was a Monday night, last Monday. And then on Wednesday, they did send someone over to fix my window. But the dude was really odd. He was on a video call with, I guess, his girlfriend. And he kept trying to get me to speak to her. I live in a really small town, so you don't run into people that look like me that often here. And so I think he was like trying to show off or be like, I'm at like a white guy's place doing repairs, not just like any old Chinese guy. Like look, girl, like I'm fixing a white guy's window.
哎，画完了啊，好了，让他自己扔吧。对，简单我简单能给他处理，别的我处理不了啊。最简单我能处理，知道吗？好了，走。
But eventually he upset me because, I mean, he had to break all of the glass out, and they brought in new windows, replaced them. He didn't put the screen back in. And then there was so much glass, the dude had come on Tuesday to measure it, so he knew it was a big window, 2 really big windows. And all he brought to take all the glass out was like, I think it was like a 12-pack beer box that he had come in the door with. And so he put like what he could in this tiny box that he had brought. And then he was trying to leave. And I kept trying to tell him like that glass, like, shh, bye-bye. And he was just like, no. And he refused to take all the glass out. So I had to get rubber gloves to get all of this glass out of my house. It took me 3 trips to take it all down. But eventually I did get it all out of my house. I had to lock my cat and dog in a room for 3 hours, which they weren't very happy about. But I had different things that I had to do for our online training as this is all happening. So I didn't have but 15, 30 minutes in between each online session to try to get all the glass cleaned up. And I didn't want them to hurt their little paws. So they weren't happy about it, but I was trying to be a good father, and I was concerned for their safety.
Goodbye, my window. Goodbye, my friend.
And then when the dude, it was like 2 guys that came, and one of them was trying to get me to pay him. He kept showing me money and like waving it at me. What?
干啥呢？我穿越呗。啊，这套业务玩不走呢，我知道。这跟小比，这个鬼人，他哪国人？他外国人，他都南斯拉夫大使馆人，他认得钱呢。
And apparently he didn't have WeChat Pay, which is the phone service that everyone uses to electronically transfer cash here. And so he wanted actual cash, and all I had was a $100 bill. But eventually my boss talked to them and worked all of that out. But so yeah, this has led me to realize I think my next video needs to be about my experience dating a girl that doesn't speak English. I don't speak Chinese, and the differences in cultural norms, the roles of guys versus girls, America versus China. I mean, obviously every situation's different, but I've noticed some very distinct things about cultural differences as far as a man and a woman's role in a relationship in China, and how they deal with certain issues such as jealousy. And so I have a lot to talk about with that. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to try to start doing these weekly. Like I said, if we're still all pretty much stuck indoors next week, I'll give you the whole story as far as that goes. It's a doozy. And if you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all the support so far. Please stay safe no matter where you are in the world. Stay safe. Take precautions. Wash your hands. When you pee, don't just stick them under there and leave. Put some soap on them. Wash them before you eat. I don't have any professional advice about it, but if you're not a hand washer, please start being a hand washer. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.